Hello, my name is Simon from CramTheExam and welcome to another exam question walkthrough where I take you through another English exam question explaining what the answers are and why the answers are the answers. In today's video we're going to have a look at a part 6 reading question from the Advanced Use of English paper, and in this particular question I've taken from the excellent website flojo.co.uk. If you haven't checked out flojo.co.uk, I really recommend that you do. Lots of wonderful resources, not just for the advanced exam but for the first exam FCE as well, and for other English exams. Of course, you'll find the link to Flojo and to this exercise in the video description below. Okay, so let's have a look at this part 6 multiple matching question. This is a new question as of 2015 into the advanced paper, and it is a nightmare. It is a difficult question. I think it's universally hated because it's so difficult. You've got lots of reading to do, lots of information to deal with, remember, and then try and so you're not just thinking of the concepts, but you're also paying attention to vocabulary as well. But on the bright side, if you practice this part 6 question over and over and over again, then you will develop your reading skills in general, which will pay off because you'll get better scores in the other reading questions. I guess you should perhaps allocate as much time as possible to this part 6 question because it is a difficult question. But on the other hand, it is only 4 questions and it is multiple choice. So perhaps with an educated guess, or worst comes to the worst, a stab in the dark, you might get the question right by simply guessing. But hopefully it won't come to that. Hopefully you'll be able to do the question using your skills, your expertise, and the correct approach to get 4 out of 4. Anyway, enough pontificating from me. Let's have a look at the question. One thing that I always recommend that you do is to read through the texts first and get an idea of the general mood of the text. Text A, for example, is largely positive. In fact, it's almost entirely positive. So this is the general mood of A. B, on the other hand, is largely negative, largely critical. C, on the other hand, mostly positive, 1 or 2 criticisms. And in D, it's positive as well. So these general moods might help you in terms of this exam, in terms of the questions. And indeed, for question number 1, it is a mood question, which reviewer has a different opinion from the others on the confidence with which de Botton discusses architecture. So because B stands out as being negative, well, let's start off there. And the link to confidence and discussing architecture we can see here. It says one is left with the feeling that he needed the help and support of let me just highlight that there, to walk him across the daunting threshold of architecture itself, which rather suggests that de Botton didn't have the confidence that he needed help and support to talk about architecture. If we have a look at A, it says he writes with typical self-assurance, suggesting confidence. In B, he has a great time making bold and amusing judgments about architecture. Sounds like he's pretty confident there. And lastly, for D, it says de Botton certainly writes with conviction. So there's nothing about lacking confidence there. So A, C, and D agree in terms of the confidence that de Botton had, whereas B is different, which is why the answer is B. For question number 2, it says, which reviewer shares reviewer A's opinion whether architects should take note of de Botton's ideas? So A's opinion, let's see if we can find that straight away. So we need to know what de Botton's ideas are of architecture and architect. And in E, we can find... Sorry, I misunderstood the question. Let's read the question again. Which reviewer shares reviewer A's opinion whether architects should take note of de Botton's ideas, should take note, in other words, should pay attention to, should listen to, should read and understand. So let's find that vocabulary in the text for A, and we can find it here. His commendable aim is to encourage architects and society more general to pay more attention to the psychological consequences of design in architecture. So here, what A is saying, architects should pay attention to what he's saying, particularly, and we can see here, is to encourage architects. So let's see if we can find a text which agrees with this. Certainly, the negativity of B doesn't lend itself to this. There's nothing in B that says that architects should listen to what de Botton says. In fact, the criticism of de Botton as regards architecture is fairly severe, so I think we can skip past B. However, in C, it says at the end, this is an engaging and intelligent book on architecture and something everyone, professionals within the field in particular, in other words, architects, should read. So A is saying architects should read it, C is saying architects should read it. In D, just to knock all the options off the list, there's nothing in here that says that architects should read his work. So here the answer is C. Okay, let's move on to question number 3. Which reviewer expresses a similar view to reviewer B regarding the extent to which architects share de Botton's concerns? So what we've got to do here is go to B and find out what de Botton's concerns are. Now we can find de Botton's concern in the middle of the text, and we can highlight it here. If architecture's capacity to generate happiness is inconsistent, this might be because happiness has rarely been something architects think about. So the concern is that architects don't think about happiness or generating happiness, and they should be. This is the concern. This is the worry. So we need to find another text which also shares this idea that architects should be thinking about something else. And if we go to A, we can find this. Even though A is positive and B is negative, A also talks about, or the reviewer in A also talks about the fact that de Botton highlights this difference in concern or difference in approach. And we can find this text here. Yet architects do not normally talk nowadays very much about emotion and beauty. They talk about design and function. So once again, there's a similar idea of concern, that architects are rather formal, technical, practical people, whereas they should be thinking about art, happiness, beauty, etc., etc. So here, A shares or expresses a similar view to reviewer B about the extent to which architects share de Botton's concerns. And lastly, for question number 4, it says, which reviewer has a different view to reviewer C on the originality of some of de Botton's ideas? So let's go straight to C and see if we can find out what C says about originality. And we can see that here. Although he's a rigorous thinker, most of de Botton's revelations, such as the contradictions in I'm not even going to try and say that, theory and practice, are not particularly new. So what C is saying is that de Botton is a good thinker, he's a rigorous thinker, but his ideas aren't particularly new. So we need to find someone that says that his ideas are new, because to be in contrast with C. And we can see this different view, perhaps surprisingly, in B. B is that critical text, but here, at the beginning of the review, it says, Alan de Botton raises important, previously unasked questions concerning the quest for beauty in architecture or its rejection or denial. So this idea of being previously unasked suggests an originality that C seems to suggest isn't there, because C is saying that the idea is not particularly new, whereas B is saying that these issues that de Botton raises are new, being previously unasked. And there we go. It is a nightmare of a question. It is a very difficult question. As I said, on the plus side, there's only 4 questions, so if you have to shoot in the dark, at least you've got a 25% chance of getting it right. But nevertheless, with practice, you can get better at these questions. And of course, there's always the hope that in the exam, your question will be a little bit easier than this one that we've been working with today. If, of course, you have any questions or you disagree with me, and I hope that many of you do, or at least in my attempt to explain why the answers are the answers, please leave comments in the video, in the comments below, and I'm happy to get into that conversation with you and find out what you think about why the answers are the answers. And of course, if you're studying for the advanced exam using the Gold Advanced book, Ready for Advanced book, or the Advanced Expert book, Expert Advanced, then please pop along to CramTheExam.com, where you can see videos like this one for all of the exam questions in those books, so you can study at your own time, in your own speed, and do as many of those exam questions as you want, as quickly as you like. Okay, I'll see you again soon.